الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين. أما بعد, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala tells us in His glorious book about the arrogant disbelievers. This is in Surah An-Nahl, chapter 16, and verse 24. بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإذا قيل لهم ماذا أنزل ربكم قالوا أساطير الأولين. And when it is said to them, to those disbelievers, what has your Lord sent down? They say legends of the former people. This is what the arrogant disbelievers think of religion. It's nonsense, it's stories, it's drugs of the masses, as the communists used to say. Reaction to human weakness in front of the power of nature. That is something concocted to kind of make up for that weakness. Or it's an obstacle to advancement. That's what they think of religion. They don't think of it as a safe passage through this life to the hereafter. And disbelievers are the same in every time and every age. Nowadays, you tell them, the book says this. They don't believe in a book. They have no idea. They don't know anything. They don't want to know anything. They turn away from Allah's guidance because it conflicts with their desires. Their desires want to take them in one path, and Allah's direction says, no, take a different path. But they don't want to do that. So they justify their action by belittling Allah's guidance. But there is a scientific relation between turning away from Allah and between bad behavior. If you turn away from Allah, your behavior must be bad. If you are on Allah's path, your behavior will be good. It's a scientific relation. And by scientific, that means it's a firm relation between cause and effect. It is not a maybe, it's a definite. When you go in and you inspect the actions and the character and what a disbeliever would do, you'll see all kinds of bad things. So when desires are what motivates somebody to move in this life, that's the only thing that motivates them is their desires, they're going to take what's not theirs, they're going to abuse others, they're going to transgress. They have to. Because faith and religion tie up your hand. You cannot do whatever you want. You do what Allah wants. Which is, a lot of times, it's contrary to what your drive, what your desires want to do. And that's why there is a reward for it. If Allah told you to do what your desires tell you, then why is there punishment and reward? A lot of times Allah's commands go contrary to what your desires are. And when you squish your desires and you control them, now you deserve the reward. So these people, they will go astray and they will take other people astray with them. It's not bad enough that they behave badly. They influence others to follow suit. And in the next verse, in verse 25, Allah says, لِيَحْمِلُوا أَوْزَارَهُمْ كَامِلَةً يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ وَمِنْ أَوْزَارِ الَّذِينَ يُضِلُّونَهُمْ بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ أَلَا سَاءَ مَا يَزِرُونَ. That they may bear their own burdens, their sins, their burdens. They will bear them in full on the day of resurrection. And some of the burdens of those who misguide without knowledge, unquestionably evil is what they bear. So, sin and the bearing of the burden of that sin are consequences of disbelief and turning away from Allah. Because if you turn away from Allah, you're going to sin. When you sin, you're going to have to bear the burden of that sin. So a disbeliever, he spreads problems wherever they go. When they move around, they commit sins. They hurt others. They take what's not theirs. When they relate news, they lie about it. They deceive. They cause division among people. We see that in the media today in full display. When he talks about himself, he boasts while belittling others. He always takes his side, and everybody else is inferior. That's what a disbeliever does. When they sell a product, they hide the defects and they pump up, the price, and they lie when they sell. All of these are burdens. Wizr in Arabic. So these are burdens that one will carry on their back on the day of judgment. So you have to be careful how you act in this life, because you do not want to show up on the day of resurrection with a lot of burdens on your back. So these burdens are carried in full, kamila. لِيَحْمِلُوا أَوْزَارَهُمْ كَامِلًا. Because Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala watches everything that they do. There is no hiding some of it. The consequences of those sins are borne in full on the day of judgment. Because Allah is just and His watch is perfect. وَمِنْ أَوْزَارِ الَّذِينَ يُضِلُّونَهُمْ بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ. Not only as if the burden of their own sins is not bad enough, they also carry some of the burden of people who follow suit in their behavior. And that's one thing that's so scary, that doing bad is not the worst of it. If you are the first person to do something bad, to make a sunnah sayyi'ah, to establish something that nobody else did, and others start mimicking you, now you get the sin of your burden and part of theirs. Because yours is not bad enough, now you have other sins just coming in and burdens piling up. And Allah did not say you bear all of their burdens, some. Because they have a responsibility as well. They have a responsibility for, paying attention to what they're doing. Just because somebody told them do it, doesn't mean you have to do it. You have to think about it. So a full share of the wrong that they commit, and a partial share of the sins that others do when they mimic them. أَلَا سَاءَ مَا يَزِرُونَ. These burdens on the day of judgment will be a source of disgrace. It's a disaster. When you show up and I didn't do anything wrong. Allah's word, here you go. Here's your life. Here's your life on display in front of you. You cannot deny. So if you want to understand kind of the gravity of it, with just a simple example. So if somebody is traveling, and somebody comes in and say, why don't you take this package with you, deliver it where you're going. You don't inspect the package, you just carry it and go. They stop you at the airport, they inspect it, it's full of drugs. Now you're looking at 10 to 30 years in prison, and in some countries they may execute you. Now this package, how evil and how disgraceful was that burden, that package that you are carrying with you. You want to inspect everything that you're carrying. You don't want to carry something that's going to hurt you. Because we as humans, by nature, we want safety. We want happiness. We don't do anything to hurt ourselves in the process. We do it out of ignorance, and that's where the hurt comes from. But when you do it, when you fully know what the ramifications are, you won't do it if it hurts you. So many things that one does in this life, and they don't pay attention to, but burdens are piling up and piling up for the day of judgment. We have to be very careful in this life as to what we do. We have to inspect what we say, what we do, what we think, because Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala will hold us responsible for all of them. And please, whatever you do, do not start something new that others start mimicking you. That's a disaster. You want to start something good. And now when everybody does and follow your example, now you get a share of their benefit. That's the type of stuff that you want to be with you on the day of judgment, not the burdens of sin. And Allah says, بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ. Ignorance in this law, in human law, is not acceptable. It's not an acceptable excuse. And in Allah's law, it's not acceptable either. You cannot say, I didn't know. Why did you follow your desires? Where were you thinking? Didn't you think about what you're doing? Allah gave you a mind and you said, no, I'm just going to take somebody's word and just run along with it. Where is your thinking? Where is your reasoning? You're responsible for it. Ignorance is not an excuse in front of Allah. He gave you guidance. He gave you a brain. He gave you, a Quran. Didn't you read the Quran? Didn't you comprehend what the Quran was trying to tell you? Didn't you investigate before you did something? In matters of life, worldly matters, if you want to do something, say like buy a house, you're going to ask 20 different people, you're going to do hours and hours of research so that you can buy the best house and not buy a lemon. Why is it when it comes to the things of the hereafter, you just follow suit and you don't even think? Which is more important? Why didn't you, if you had a question about something, why didn't you consult people who knew? Don't just, follow things without knowing. Ask, investigate, think, contemplate. You have to put all these things to make sure that as you move in this life, you're not getting yourself in trouble. And then Allah in the next, verse 28, Allah says, الَّذِينَ تَتَوَفَّاهُمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ ظَالِمِي أَنفُسِهِمْ فَأَلْقَوْا السَّلَمَ مَا كُنَّا نَعْمَلُ مِنْ سُوءٍ بَلَى إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلِيمٌ بِمَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. The ones whom the angels come to take their life at the moment of death, these are the wrongdoers. They've wronged themselves and then offer submission. They submit at that point. At the moment of death, you will submit. There is no more excuses. And what they're going to say, we didn't do anything wrong. That's what every criminal says. You catch a criminal, I didn't do anything wrong, I'm innocent, I'm not guilty. They all say that. But Allah knows exactly what you've done. And the record is indisputable. So ignorance is not a defense. So we have to educate ourselves, we have to educate our families, we have to seek knowledge. Ignorance is never an excuse. You cannot tell a policeman, I didn't know that crossing a red light was wrong, I'm not supposed to do that. You're going to get a ticket anyways. It's not an excuse. If a human will not accept it from you, you expect Allah, who knows what you're thinking when you did it. He knows your intentions, He knows your actions and the ramifications of your action. You think He's not going to hold you responsible? So, every detail is recorded. Small or large. Doesn't matter. It's all recorded. When you internalize that fact, when you behave, when you say something, when you do something, you're going to inspect it and you're going to make sure that the best words come out of your mouth. The best behavior come out of your character. Because Allah the angels are writing. You do it all day, the angels are writing and people are heedless. They don't care. Well, they'll care one day. You may not care in the moment, but those burdens pile up, and you do not want to reach the hereafter with a lot of burdens. So lighten your burden and increase your good deeds. That's the recipe for success in this life and in the hereafter. Stay away from sin, do good deeds. And if, God forbids you commit a sin, do a lot of good deeds to make up for it. So that's the recipe. So when you do something, inspect. Research. Ask. If you don't know, ask. There's no shame in asking. There's a shame in ignorance. Ask. Learn. You have to do all that because the matter is very serious. And ignorance is not an excuse. So if we want to be successful when we meet Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, we have to meet Him with a pure and good heart. That's the first one. The heart that doesn't want to hurt anybody else. That's what a pure heart is. Only goodness comes out of it. A truthful tongue, humble. Be humble, be merciful, have good manners, be good to others. This is what will make the difference when we meet Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لكم فاستغفروه إنه الغفور الرحيم.